Good evening. I've been live at the satellite show this week in DC, but man, you would hardly know with all the game changing NASA news afoot. Gateway out, $20 billion moon base in, a nuclear rocket to Mars in only 2 years, and an RFP request for the ages. Meanwhile, Namibia rejects Starlink's license request, interestingly. Scored a $448 million Space Force deal. A company called SIFT raised 42 million Series B. Airbase raises 5 mil to tackle a spectrum bottleneck. Swiss company PaveSpace closed a $40 million seed round. Lots of money this week. Meantime, CLD companies want stability, not a new plan. All that was our guest, Dr. Doug Plata. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And of course, as you know, this podcast is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. What do we do? Well, of course, we champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So just go to cscf.space/support. Click that Plainest Day donate button. A little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't tell your friends. Speaking of friends, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, is back from harvesting his lotus garden. Hope he got a good crop this year. Michael.
Hey.
There he is, man.
How's things?
I am beat. I am just like beat. Like
yeah. DC
man.
This week. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I was all over this thing going on at the satellite show.
Yeah.
And the first couple of days, all I did was talk to basically investors and entrepreneurs. They all stack up and they front load the show with this stuff. They do they do. It was the 10th anniversary of their pitch competition.
Oh.
And there's some real good teams there. And but I already had a bunch of entrepreneurs and investors pegged on my list. Half the judges I already had pegged on my list. I just had to walk up to them at the end. You're all here at once. I get to talk to you all. Yay!
Yay!
And so I got some of them really interested in both Avialto and in the Space Investment Summit we want to do in Turkey this year.
Yep.
And so I got a lot done.
Good.
And there's like all the good parties were done after Tuesday night. So Wednesday. Well, I was at a trade show again.
Right. It's just another trade show.
Just another trade show. People selling parts to each other for their things and little components for what they do. And, and my RF thing is better than your RF thing. And that's what it is. And there's, 20 rows of that stuff.
Pardon my being crass, but I refer to that as my PhD is bigger than your PhD. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, good. Man. I mean, but it was a good show. It's big now, right? Like it's one of the major.
It's a premier event. No matter what. I mean, they do other shows of this kind, but this is like, if you're in that business, this is a must do for a lot of guys in that business. And at least I got one little bit of news out of there that I could share a little later, because everything's being overwhelmed by, as you know, on Tuesday.
What?
Massive NASA announcements took the wind out of the sails of all the stuff that was coming out of SAT show.
I mean, that news changed the trajectory for a lot of people.
Yeah, it did, including us.
And we'll talk about it in a moment, but if you add up Isaacman's change for NASA, the trajectory, Musk changed the trajectory for SpaceX, and Bezos changed the trajectory of Blue, all within about a 6 or 8 week period. All of a sudden, people are finally saying what you and I have been saying for years, like, go
Yeah.
to the moon. It's the moon, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. I'm glad. I'm glad to see
Yeah.
this.
That is actually really the way it is. And of course, as we were saying for the last couple of weeks, we didn't know if Isaacman needed to be unleashed or if this is what unleashing Isaacman looked like.
Right.
And now I think we have the final
Now
answer
we
to
know.
that debate. This
Yeah.
is the real Isaacman is, coming to town,
Yep.
and he is
Yep.
kicking some butt now. And one of our greatest dreams for the last 5 years come true. Gateway is gone.
What'd you say? What?
Gateway is gone.
Gateway is gone.
Gateway
Right
is
on.
gone. Now they say they're trying to put some light on it and say, well, maybe we'll use some of those components to help build our $20 billion lunar base near the South Pole, where we're going to put it here in a few years. Oh my God, that's absolutely insane.
Right.
We got tons of material on this.
Yeah.
There's that Ars Technical article. I've got another one if we have time, which we might not. But that one, you're going to focus on an ambitious moon base, but they also have plans. Then they want to establish a surface base, but they also, we've got some interesting things going in the world of nuclear-powered spacecraft. Bezos just unveiled something.
That's what I want. Yeah.
The other day.
Yeah.
So you can talk about that. We'll get up to that. I didn't have a link for it, but I just heard about it. And they actually, it was over in the UK, I think. They were having a kind of a show and tell.
Right. Yeah.
New. But some of this is going to find its way probably onto the nuclear-powered spacecraft that NASA wants to send to Mars in a couple of years.
Right.
I mean, they are moving fast. I mean, say, well, we're going to build a whole new thing. We're going to send it to Mars in 2 years. 2 years, folks. Wow. It all makes perfect sense and no sense at the same time, depending on who you are and what you're looking at. But man,
20 years of development finally starts to pay off. I mean, what's that phrase? It took 20 years to be an overnight sensation.
Yeah, that was
that's
Steve
the
Martin
feeling. That's the
said
sentiment I have now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So which one you want to talk about first? Let's kind of dig in because I'm not sure where we're starting today.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place because I had zero time. I was so tired from walking over to the Jefferson Memorial and looking at the lotus blossoms. I took a 3-hour nap when I got back.
Oh, good for you.
And so, I'm still tired. I was just hustling to write the script then and try to find some links. And
let's talk a bit more about Isaacman and killing Gateway to focus on the moon. Right. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Yep. I feel like that's the story of the week. It might be the story of the decade. Let's what do you think this really means? How does this really move the needle?
Well, since Gateway was just a project of the contractors, by the contractors, and for the contractors,
and Emperor Nelson, let's not leave him out.
Yep. It was all part of that. That great. It was just a triumph of lobbying over common sense.
Right.
Is what that was. And now we're coming back to common sense. So even if they meet half their ambitions in the next few years, we're still going to be a lot better off, and we're going to have people on the moon.
I hope so. I mean, that is exactly what I've been dreaming of. I'm going to read one of Isaacman's key quotes. Okay. For too long, we have tried to satisfy every stakeholder, and the results are that are very well documented. The Office of the Inspector General's reports: billions of dollars wasted, years lost, hardware that never launched, fewer flagship science missions, and fewer astronauts in space, which means fewer kids dressing up as astronauts for Halloween. I don't like it. The president doesn't like it. The American people have waited long enough. I hope that someday in my life I get to say something that damn smart.
Yes.
Right?
I think we all do.
Like, in one paragraph, he just summed up, the last 25 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So nice job, Isaac. Man,
that we had to sit through. We had to sit through those last 25 years, day after day after day. Unlike what he was doing.
Exhausting.
But
yeah. So I don't know if you want to go farther than that. I think a lot of people already know this news, but if there's something else, I just really wanted to stress that.
Yeah.
That line,
because it is huge, and I'm tickled. I'm excited. I want to see what's going to happen. I mean, I'm almost so happy. I almost think, oh yeah, I'm almost cheerleading for Artemis 2 now. There's a new plan behind it.
I feel better about it.
Wave the flag, Yeah.
Woo. Right.
So if that news can make me do that, then I guess it's pretty serious business. Well, the other thing that was tied up in that package, or was that other link? I think was somewhere, was to that nuclear rocket they want to send to Mars. In only 2 years.
That's huge.
And that was a significant thing.
That's a bet I wouldn't have made. I'm not trying to second guess Isaacman. I'm not trying to second guess NASA. But if that tech was 2 years away, I feel like that would have been better known and better understood.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Dr. Plata, if you're listening, to chime in on that when you're on camera, because you know a lot more about Mars capabilities than I do. But I feel like if that tech was actually just 2 years away, we'd have heard more about it. Like, I've been hearing this, 60 days to Mars, 90 days to Mars, nuclear thrust, blah, blah, blah. I've been hearing about it for 10 years, but I didn't think it was actually on the brink of buildable. So I'm going to just ask somebody who knows more about it than I do in a moment.
Well, here's the weird part about it. It's in that article from NASAspaceflight.com.
Yep.
They said that they're actually, and I don't get what this is about. So what was Gateway really about? Because they're saying they're reallocating Gateway hardware to demonstrate highly efficient mass transport in space with the spacecraft carrying multiple Ingenuity-class helicopters. So they're taking something out there, and then they're landing something on the surface and flying a bunch of helicopters around. And so it's called Space Reactor Freedom, and it's Freedom Reactor 1/Freedom, and it's set to launch actually December 2028. So a little more than 2 years away, but 2.5. But that's a quick pivot.
I bet you they asked to move that to the left because December 2028 is not in time for the election. And I think the election is driving an awful lot of this pivot. And since we lost nearly a year and a half, 15 months, waiting to get Isaacman on board, and then, this was his first real day in the sun. I suspect they're going to try and push that to the left because a lot of this is very, very focused on getting stuff done before the election. So I suspect they're going to try and push that a little faster, even, which is one of the reasons I'm a little skeptical of it. But fingers crossed, man.
But also, you know what? I could have gone all day without talking about an election.
Okay, fair enough.
I've been having such an exciting moment with all the space news. But okay,
you know where I stand, but I don't think it's a wrong way of approaching the problem.
Well, Well, it depends on whether
It's
we actually, get back to actual sanity and honest debate, or if it gets worse. If it gets even more
right. Always
insane and
true.
wacko out there, then none of it's
Right.
going to matter, because the whole thing could be canceled at the whim of the next president. God knows who he
Yeah.
or she will
Yeah.
be. And so, that's. I don't want to be depressed right now. I want to think of good stuff.
No, absolutely not.
This is a good.
All right. So we're going to make a nuclear engine. This Skyfall program has been around for, I don't know, about 6 years or so, something like that, 5-6 years. It came out of a NIAC program maybe 10 years ago. It's how Ingenuity flew on Mars in the first place. That was a NIAC proposal. As far as I know, these are the only NIAC proposals to actually see the light of day, where they went from Wild Blue Yonder's proposal into test systems that actually flew and went and did the mission they were going to design for. So super excited about that piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also sent me something, but it wasn't a link to an actual story, but you sent me this thing earlier this week.
Which one's
that?
That
had to do with all the RFPs they're asking for. That was another thing that dumped this week.
Yeah. So, and concurrent with Isaacman going on stage and present, and I don't have any links to share. I'm just going to point people to the NASA Inspires webpage if they want to look up the proposals, but their RFPs and RFIs. But concurrent to Isaacman's time on stage, NASA rescinded, had to have been 6 different solicitations or planned solicitations. So I got notifications just one after another on rescinding some solicitations. And then about 10 minutes later, maybe it wasn't even that long, I probably got another 4 new solicitations for requests for information and requests for proposals. So basically, they literally shut down some programs and opened new programs based on Isaacman's announcements.
Okay.
Which I kind of liked that. I thought that was pretty neat. It puts money and decision making behind the rah piece of it. So
yeah.
I like that quite a bit. Yeah.
Yep.
So there are, if anybody has access to the Inspires portal, there are new proposals and new RFIs, all focused on the moon. What are commercial capabilities? What are things we haven't looked at? What should we be looking at? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there.
I was just going to say, we have a bunch of great folks here with us this evening. Wes is here, and Dr. Ajay, and Veronica Ann, and Morty. And
hey, y'all.
Yep, and Dr. Ajay says, don't forget Carlos. Which Carlos am I not going to forget? I feel like I'm forgetting the Alamo or something.
He was one of the speakers at the at the Isaacman presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. He's right. Yeah.
Okay.
He was. There's been so many pieces of news that I've lost track of who was making the actual announcement, point for point. So if I neglected Carlos, I apologize. But it's, what's his name? I know his name. I'll get there in a second.
Okay, we got a few minutes. We can talk about money real quick.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, Kratos, for example, it's a big company, and they just scored a $447 million Space Force award for a missile tracking ground system. There was a lot of people selling those kinds of wares at the SAT show this week.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. They're seeing all the Golden Dome money, and they're going, yeah, we want to get into this.
Here's my wheelbarrow. Yep.
Yeah, here it is. It's raining soup, grab a bucket, and that's what That's what a lot of those guys were doing, not just the guys selling the connectors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. So that was the one news out of there I thought I could actually mention that actually, kind of popped out from a lot of the rest of it. But we got some, again, more companies I've never heard of. A company called Sift.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know who they were, but I know now. They're a SoCal startup developing tools to help engineers make sense of hardware sensor data, and raised $42 million in a Series B. And so, but their AI can't interpret any of it without structure. So they say that the problem they're trying to solve is we've got all these rockets, satellites, defense systems, autonomous vehicles, computers wrapped in steel, generating millions of data points per second from hundreds of sensors, but AI can't interpret any of it without structure. And so they're trying to transform raw sensor data into something structured and queryable that both the engineers and the AI systems can work with. And so that's what that's what they do, and that's why they got a big payday.
Good for them. No, I hadn't heard about them. And that goes to Space Capital's comment about how there's kind of 3 layers to this industry. There's the infrastructure layer, then there's the data layer, and then there's the the products and services that come out of it. So that just goes to their point about you need a full ecosystem for this whole thing to work. So pretty neat. I wonder who their clients are.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
They don't mention that, interestingly.
That's Mealing's comment. Who's your client's client?
Yep, he does that a lot.
Yeah, and so that was the first thing I read when I thought, and it's the same thing with this next article, the airbase people. Who's your client's client?
Yeah, and we don't have much to say about them because the article was cut off, unfortunately. Yep. But they emerged from stealth. They raised $5 million. They say they're going to modernize how governments coordinate radio frequencies used by satellites and 5G networks and other wireless systems. So I guess we'll find out more about that as it goes. Yep. Here's an interesting one out of Switzerland. So if you're from the EU, Switzerland's, they're called PAVE Space. It's called. I don't know what PAVE stands for. It's all caps. They just closed a 40 million seed round. So, and they're doing an initial demonstration mission later this year. It was it actually was a spin-off from a student-led Gruyere space program, which developed a small reusable rocket demonstrator.
Neat.
And they want to develop space mobility solutions with a focus on transporting satellites rapidly between orbits. And so that's a niche. I only know maybe a couple companies that want to do that. So that's that'll be an interesting thing for the Euros to have.
Capability. Yeah. Portal up here in Washington, in Seattle, is all about moving things from one orbit to the next. That's all they want to do is just coast from LEO to GEO and back and forth.
Yep.
I wasn't aware of any capability in Europe doing that. Japan has a system doing it. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, there's some folks in Poland doing that too with Carol.
Okay.
So.
Yep. Sovereignty. I wonder if sovereignty is ultimately going to become a problem. If there is enough business out there for this sovereignty play to fully pay out. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there is. But again, the more players that are out there, the more that money kind of moves into the ecosystem, and
it does.
Something happens.
But just to finish it off, we have so much more we could talk about. I just want to throw this one thing in there, though. Not everyone is happy with all the changes.
Right.
For example, there's a lot of companies developing commercial space stations now to replace ISS. And they are not pleased with NASA's latest proposal at all. And there's a House hearing today, and the head of there's a Commercial Space Federation, trade association, I guess, And he said his members want to stick with the plan and not make changes that are sowing confusion, he said. And so I guess in addition to all these other things, NASA has a path called Commercial LEO Destinations, or CLDs, to succeed the ISS. And they proposed a new path for that as well. And although the briefing's focus was Artemis and building a moon base, but they also addressed U.S. presence in LEO, and they want to ensure that U.S. leadership in space is key. And both parties in White House are united in their determination not to allow China to be the only country with an Earth-orbiting space station or put taikonauts on the moon before American astronauts return. And so, as this is now is turned into, you got these public-private partnership approach that they're trying to do, and help some companies build their own space stations, and then NASA would be just a customer. And so the problem is getting that market started. And at the briefing yesterday, and a hearing before the Space Subcommittee, NASA officials said they don't see it materializing anytime soon. So instead of following the path they've been on since Phase 1 CLD awards in 2021, they're proposing a significant change and asking the industry for feedback through 2 RFIs that were issued today. Now, Dave Cavassa, who's the president of the Commercial Space Federation, already offered his feedback. And he's not happy about any of it. They've been waiting since last summer for NASA to release the Phase 2 procurement. And that sounds like it's going to be put off for a while.
Right?
Yep. And he said, and here's the quote of the day for this guy: given the delays and possible shifts in strategy, industry has been left to continue spending resources to develop private space stations without a full understanding of what NASA will require from a private station, how the agency will structure the rest of the procurement and program, and when industry may see an ROI. This uncertainty challenges the public-private partnership business model, of course, and puts the agency at risk of deorbiting ISS before private stations are operational.
All of that is true, and yet VAST is still launching in a matter of months.
Yep.
So I get why they don't want that uncertainty, because you're trying to make business plans close. I think that's the advantage of having your CEO to be a crypto bro dude billionaire, that he doesn't have to wait for some of these decisions. But Voyager and Blue and Axiom, that are very structured around a NASA program,
and VAST isn't so much, and that's why VAST is continuing with their launch, because I've already seen the inside of the thing, and this thing is this is just a full all-up proof of concept test. Where you go with that could depend on future policy decisions, but they have the freedom to launch what they have independent of that.
Right.
So they're just testing the hardware.
Yeah, they're good.
So, okay. I think that's all we have. We're already running late, as we always do. Michael, let's bring on our guest, shall we?
Sure.
He's a frequent visitor and a good fan of the show, Dr. Doug Plata, who writes profusely. He's a physician, but he writes profusely on space stuff for us and for his own things that he does on LinkedIn and in other places. And he's very prolific, and he's very, very talented and smart about what he does. Let's bring him on. Dr. Doug, welcome to the show, man. Welcome back.
Hey, welcome. Can you see me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yes, good to be back. Good to it's good listening to you guys too.
Thanks. So before you jump in, I want you to give your background, because we always get new listeners, so I want people to know your background. But I'm going to say that I met you first at the Mars Society conference. You've been a Martian since the day I met you. And do you have anything to weigh in on that new plan for a nuclear rocket to Mars by 2027, 2028, end of 2028? Do you think that's a doable time frame? Is that tech available now? Is it tech that we can deploy fast enough? I don't know that much about it. Doug, can you hear me?
Did we lose Doug already?
Drat.
I know. I've been popped in and out a few times tonight too. So
yeah, no, he's frozen on my side. Well, that's too
I'm
bad.
seeing that too. That's sad. It was such a good question. Now you're gonna have to remember it.
We can.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
We can.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, very brief. Nuclear thermal rockets about this. And, it's nuclear is very good for Mars, but I think that it's just due to orbital mechanics, it will reduce probably 4 months. But more importantly, is the number of refuelings that are necessary for each trip to Mars.
Okay. Is it tech that's viable within the next, flyable within the next 2 years, 3 years?
2 years is tight. I would say 4 years if you have a crash program. Same 2 years.
Okay.
They're saying the end of 2028.
So 2.5 from right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical on that. But
my countdown clock is 923 days.
Yeah, I'm pleased that they are being so actually.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Right on.
Now,
shall we?
Here's a question:
do
those things have in the short run while designing things like this? Is there an effective mass limit that you have to be aware of to get this thing going? I know they're sending a landing craft with and putting out some small helicopters, like we did on that last probe, and that's it. But will that thing be developed to be sufficient enough to take, say, a 6-person crew with a lander and a little habitat they can live in while they're on the way? I mean,
no, we need to stop thinking like.
head.
No, we need to stop thinking like that. The future is the Starship fleet. We need to that.
Okay.
That's going to be the future with nuclear thermal rockets.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Give us a little bit of your background. Give us a little bit about the Space Development Network, and then let's jump into your main topic.
I'm a physician, and my hobby is space development. I have been very active, as you guys know. I just finished a 300-page book, which is very timely. I am going to be speaking about inflatable habitats, which I think are going, just from first principles, I think they're going to be inevitable for beginning to, 10, 15 years into the future.
Awesome. Tell us about your book. I knew you were working on it last time we talked. You were traveling to Central America or something like that and writing, but so you're done now. You're done now? Yeah.
My wife's country, and I completed the first draft, and it's well. People can get the draft for free at moonbook.space. Be a little with it, working out some bugs with the website, but if you go there, you can get both the PDF, the full book, as well as the audiobook as well.
Cool. Neat. Thanks.
Shall we get to the topic?
Yes, please.
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I share?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Guess I'll share the entire screen.
Yep.
Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Almost. There you go. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So-
We see all the slides individually, but it's not in
Oh,
present.
there we go. Yeah.
Okay, let me give me about 15 minutes just to set the stage in regards to inflatables. So inflatables are, I think, key because it's maximum volume of habitat for, for the mass that we have. And basically, I'm basically saying, like I said, we need to really think in terms of the Starship. I think the Starship is probable. So the context is that 100-ton payloads will be able to be delivered to the Moon and Mars, I would say in the early 2030s. I think that's quite realistic. What I've done is I've modified the SpaceX image to show what a lunar ferry would look like unloading an 8-meter diameter payload onto surface vehicles. And this is a sort of maximally efficient transportation system between the Earth and Moon, with different legs of transportation. So think about fitting 100 tons into that volume and what could be done. ESA has, a lot of people have thought about surface habitats. We have quite a bit of experience with inflatable habitats in space. Bigelow has several in orbit. In fact, like 3 in orbit. We even had NASA was like the first inflatable. This is not a habitat, but this was Echo 1 and 2. Here is Beam. Here's Genesis 1 and 2. So we have, TRL 9, technology readiness level 9. And so there are people thinking about inflatables on the moon. This is United Arab Emirates. They're sort of thinking along these lines. If you were to have inflatables that are constructed out of like Kevlar, made with the very best materials, the strongest materials, have it on Earth, just package it up and delivering it to the Moon and Mars. Inflation, construction, comparing with 3D printing, construction of inflatables is simply a matter of opening a valve of liquefied air and your construction is done. There's very little energy. There's very little risk of breakdown. And it's safe because you've tested on Earth and delivered to the Moon. To go with the very popular 3D printing, I personally don't think from a first principle standpoint that this is going to happen because imagine how long is it going to take to construct, a 70 meters by 70 meters by 10 meter habitat. You can deliver on the Moon an inflatable and inflate it in an afternoon. To construct something using local resources is going to probably run through several pieces of equipment before you finally, after many months, finally get it done. So I think that there's a real place for this. So in the Space Development Network, we've been thinking along these lines, but not just us. SpaceX, this is their image in which they imagine a very large base. From our standpoint, we think an initial international lunar base should be composed of multiple inflatable habitats constructed on Earth and connected through these corridors and whatnot to very quickly create SpaceX's version of an international lunar base very quickly, just by delivering it with these fleet of starships. Now, NASA has also in the past looked at inflatable habitats. This lady there, I emailed her and she gave me the mass per square meter of the 5 layers of inflatable habitats, using like Kevlar straps. And what it came to is, if you do the calculations, it comes to 70 meters by 70 meters by 10 meters. I mean, that's like a decent percentage of a football field that you could go ahead and deliver in a single Starship 100-ton payload. Here is
Can you put that image? That's the image that sparked this particular conversation, right?
Exactly.
it is a bit mind-boggling that can come in a single Starship maneuver, right? Is that do I understand that correctly?
That is correct. And to help you understand it, if somebody wants to do the math, it's pretty simple math. Get 6 kilograms per square meter and figured out what the surface area of this sort of inflatable mattress specialty hab would be. So that's 70 meters by 10 meters times 4. That's the sidewalls, and then 70 meters by 70 meters times 2. That's the ceiling and the floor. You calculate that out, multiplied by 6 kilograms per meter square, and that comes to 100 tons. Okay. Now, mind you, that's just the exterior surface. So you might reduce it by 50 and deliver, air locks and what internal tethers and internal walls. The equipment and furniture and electrical systems, they could be delivered separately and then brought in through the airlocks, and then telerobots can go ahead and install it. So nonetheless, we're talking very large, and this is just a single delivery of a single starship with a 10 or 11 day round trip cycle to Earth. So I believe that if you look at it from a first principle standpoint, it's conceivable that a very large international base could be constructed in like a couple of years, just delivering these very large inflatable habitats. So what we are proposing that space policy needs to seriously take into account the fact that Starship is probable. We have caught the first state. SpaceX has caught it 3 times.
We, the human race.
Yeah.
We, the human race, have caught this.
They have got the money. They now have, I believe, more Starlink revenue per year than NASA has human spaceflight budget. They've got the factory that's going to be cranking out these starships. Like in the last short video that Elon put about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, it showed the nose cones of, I think, 11 starships that were being built simultaneously. So and their engine production rate is probably about 2 engines per day right now. And there's some warehouse somewhere with a lot of engines.
Right.
So we in the Space Development Network, we are saying, okay, we're just space advocates at different levels of skill and talent. And so what can we do? We have constructed an example of a full-scale mock-up of what we call the Instabase, and just illustrate the concept. So we're doing things at our space advocate level to illustrate what would it look like to have inflatables on the moon and Mars. And then we have the agriculture working group and surface vehicles. We have many different aspects of which inflatables are just one concept. So if your viewers, anybody watching this YouTube video or whatnot, if you want to join the Space Development Network, you can go to developspace.info. Join for free forever. It's just a network of space advocates. And then when you join, you fill out what your interests are, what your skills are, and then we organize people into working groups, Zoom working groups, and people get together and see what we can do to advance the cause of space development. So I could leave it at that.
Okay. I love this. Of course, Tom's immediate critique. Let's put your images back up on screen. And put the big mattress up.
Yeah, the big mattress. That's good.
Are you able to see my screen?
That's good. Yeah. You know what I'm gonna ask.
Not yet.
You know what I'm gonna ask.
I know. That's why I'm queuing you up, buddy.
Where's the meter of dirt that you're going to need to keep the radiation out? Because you can't pile that on top of an inflatable. It'll just go like that. Even at 1.6 G, it's too heavy. And so there's got to be some kind of infrastructure inside it to be able to hold that mass, so you don't, all die of
so not
radiation.
Not true. Are you able to see my screen?
No, not yet.
coming up. Going a little slow here. Just to quickly.
Oh, we're losing him again.
Well recognized.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, well let's just stick with the mattress for a second. I get that you have to stop radiation, no question. I don't think anybody's arguing that. Tom, I think it's relatively straightforward. I think I have to enable that. There.
Well, I'll tell it to Joe Carroll because he was the one who actually educated me on this.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. I think it's relatively straightforward to brace that thing internally.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have it braced on day one, but it doesn't take very long to put some supports on the inside to keep that thing.
Yeah. Well, I know. That was the question, but how long does it take to get that done and get it covered up before, because there's a race. Once you've inflated that thing, the clock is ticking.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can. Yeah.
Very quickly. So we've thought about this. So do you see this image of the conveyor stacker?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So the idea is you create these double walls and you pour loose regolith in between the walls out to, couple meters thick probably. And this thing just drives around the periphery and you pour into the space between the walls. And then on the roof, you pour regolith on the roof and little robots, they go and push it, they spread it around. And then at the end, you just go ahead and cover it with a thin plastic to make it look good, basically. And so I've done the calculations. This would be like 2 weeks, I think, operating 24/7 to be with one lunar day that you could go ahead and complete the job. And if you know about air pressure, if you're at half atmosphere inside the habitat, that is placing 5 tons of upward pressure and outward pressure on the walls. If you have 2 tons of regolith at 1.6 tons per cubic meter of loose regolith, and then you divide that by 6, so the force downward is 1/6 because you're on the moon, it in no way exceeds the outward pressure of air pressure. So in fact, you don't need any internal supports. However, if you have a catastrophic rupture, then that could be a problem. Your mass will be coming down on you.
Yep.
So with internal sort of pillars, and these could be relatively low mass, and vertical pillars with good not tension but compression. You'd be able to support it so that even if you somehow had a catastrophic rupture that got through the rip stops in the fabric and created a large opening at one time, which we would design against, that nonetheless you would have time, and while you're in the process of losing air to get emergency air supplies on the people, and then the internal supports would simply support the weight, the 1/6 weight of the regolith, and then you do repairs and then reinflate it.
My first thought when I saw that, the not this image but the mattress image, my very first thought was triple stack that thing. Just put one on top of the other, on top of the other, go up, and then have chambers go being able to walk around, because the amount of work it's going to take to cover one, you could cover 3 in almost the same amount of effort. And now you've got a mind-boggling amount of real estate available on the moon. This is what I'm thinking about when I'm considering what do we need for our lunar elevator effort. I was never imagining something this big that easily and that quickly. But if this is right, I'm doing this.
Cool.
Right? Like,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. But it's going to be triple stacked because I don't think
So,
I don't think one stack is enough.
so Michael, I'm sure you know enough physics to know the ideal, surface to volume ratio would be a sphere, or you could go like
Yeah,
hemisphere or go with a cube. All of that is better, and so you're exactly right. Um, I I'm not quite sure which shape to choose. I sort of chose 3 floors here as something that seems reasonable to have a cube sort of shaped habitat. I just wonder about perceptions.
sure,
This just looks
sure,
like
sure.
a sort of a base to me.
Yeah. And I want to verify that's 3 meters tall. I'm sorry,
10 meters.
that's 10 meters
Yes.
tall. 10 meters
Three
tall.
three
Yeah.
floors of 3 meters apiece, about.
Bonkers. Absolutely
Yeah,
bonkers.
crazy. And I'm
Yeah.
do the math. I mean, for the fun of it, do the math and see is 70 by 70 by 10 multiplied by 6 kilograms per meter square of the material. Does that come out to 100 tons? Just do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see a lot. It'd be a lot of. It could be quite comfortable in there. Depending on how many people you say, you don't have to cram them in. Like those tight spaces you're always used to in all these sci-fi movies.
Right.
So
No.
You start right out the gate. Well, you have nice living areas,
You
and
got a racquetball court. You've got a movie theater, and
Yeah.
and Dr. Plata had that in one of his designs up above. It had a greenhouse and not that one, the one that you guys designed, the that one. Yep. Right. Like an arena, a golf hab, a hospital.
yeah,
But a movie theater, right? A church, a meeting room. So I would take the things that you created here, drop it on that 10 by 70 by 70, and decide, okay, this is it. This is what we're building.
So in my book,
because this is way more complicated to build.
So in my book, I have a chapter on International Lunar Exploration Phase and a chapter on International Lunar Base. And what the proposal is, given all of these, sort of first principles reasoning, is that it makes a lot of sense for like Artemis 2.0 to say, okay, let's partner with the nations of the world, and let's say, okay, who's going to build the garden hab? And this would be very big. And do you know what country it sort of makes sense would do that? What history? In history, who had the hanging?
Is that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Sure.
What country is Babylon?
Jesus, is that Iran? No, it is Iran. Isn't it?
Iraq.
Iraq. All right, side by side.
Tigris and Euphrates sort of deal. And so, imagine if they said, hey, we want to be the country that designs the garden hab. Okay, so this is their contribution to the International Lunar Base. So they order, one of these, inflatable habitats, and they put it somewhere near their capital, and they have their students in a university, and they're all doing this, and this becomes Iraq's contribution to the International Lunar Base,
Right, sure.
And so this, in America leading the way in establishing this International Lunar Base with everybody doing their part, I think would be a huge foreign policy win.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to be chastised tomorrow by one of my engineers, John, who is pretty dead set against inflatables and is much happier with constructed metal encasements. What's your critique to that?
My counter critique, and that is, what is faster, to inflate a habitat or extract the metal, form it, make some sort of airproof layer,
they designed it to fit inside the nose cone of a starship. It's a 40 by 40, so not nearly as big, but his thing is you can do perfect quality control checks before you send it up.
Well,
Now his was mostly designed for free floating space stations, less than lunar development, but he's convinced me that quality control
yeah,
checks are really
no,
worth the
I
effort.
agree. I understand that he would construct his habitats on Earth and then launch, and that's exactly what we're doing with inflatables. So I think that is the right approach. I am not a fan of the idea of constructing a base on the moon using local resources in the near term. I think only when it becomes cheaper, safer, faster to do it on the moon and on Mars, when that crossover point comes, then sure, make in situ habitats. But man, it's going to be a number of years before you can beat inflatables or other things. To me, inflatables is just maximum volume per mass of payload. So I would challenge, is his idea as maximally efficient as this inflatable idea? Yeah.
Neat. All right. We are running out of time here. 4 minutes left. We always end with what does the next 5 years and 25 years look like? So, given that, what does the next 5 years look like? What does 25 years look like? Let me get this off screen here. What does it look like with your perspective on HABs?
Okay.
And toss in what we just learned about from Isaac. Yes, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes. 3 minutes left.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. 5 years is 21, so we will have a fleet in it's maybe not 1,000, but in the 200, 300, and 400, something like this. It's going to be very obvious by that time, and it'll be fully reusable, I believe. Refilling, etc. Will there be nuclear thermal engines on the starships by 2031? I would say in 10 years, not 5 years from now. I'm guessing. And I would say when we recognize there is going to be a starship fleet, there is going to be policy is going to change towards the development of surface systems, including habitats, and inflatables are just a logical way to go. So I think by 2031, we're going to have the initial permanent crew, and we're going to begin to have the American phase, and very quickly that will be the international components of the international base. It'll be pretty clear that we are heading in the direction that I'm describing. That's my guess for 5 years from now. 10 years from now, we will have starships in the thousands. We will have flights to the moon, probably daily. How many thousands of people would be on the moon by then? Probably over 100,000, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to go.
Yep. Right.
Be alive. You're a doc. Man. I'm 72 now. 10 years from now, I'll be 82. I am not too old. I'm going to do it. If Shatner can go at 90,
right.
Okay, keep myself up. I'll be fine. I'll make it.
Right.
Diet and exercise, man.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That's how that's going.
And see your doctor gets some cancer screening too.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do that now. All right, Dr. Doug Plata, thank you so much for coming on the show and showing us this incredible vision. I hope we can all make it come true. And I'm looking forward to looking at your book. I've already got the page up. I'm going to download it when the show's over. And I'm going to have some fun reading on the plane home tomorrow. So thank you for doing that too. I'm looking forward to it so much. Doug, thanks for being here. And we'll have you back again very soon.
Yeah.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Another fun day with a lot of great news and a lot of great things to dream about and work towards. And so it's a pretty happy time. Our guest on Monday will be Space Economy Strategy Advisor, Dr. Dan Gerritsen. I don't know a whole lot about him. I'm going to look him up and we'll have a lot to say. I'm sure he has, if he's a Space Economy Strategy Advisor, I want to know what that's about and who's he's advising, who's paying him. I want to know who his customers are. And so we're looking forward to that. That's Monday at, as always, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for coming tonight, everybody. And for Michael Lane and for our producer, Sean Key, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.